In a tranquil corner of the world, nestled in a picturesque town called Serenity Valley, lived our unsuspecting protagonist, Emily Thompson. Emily was the epitome of a serene life, a schoolteacher with a heart full of kindness, residing in a charming cottage adorned with vibrant flowers. Blissfully unaware of the shadows lurking in the corners, her days were painted with the hues of peace and routine. Emily was beloved by her students, admired for her patience and dedication. She cherished the joy of nurturing young minds, imparting knowledge, and fostering dreams. Her evenings were often spent sipping chamomile tea, reading her favorite novels, or taking peaceful strolls through the quaint tree-lined streets where neighbors exchanged friendly hellos and smiles. At dusk, when the sky resembled an artist's canvas, blending warm oranges and soft pinks, she would sit by her window, embracing the comforting stillness. The whispers of the wind, the rustling leaves, and the distant laughter of children playing infused her world with a sense of contentment. Emily's haven was also adorned with trinkets from her travels, souvenirs collected during her backpacking adventures, a reminder of the vastness of the world beyond Serenity Valley. As a keen explorer and avid reader, she often dreamed of uncharted territories and distant lands, imagining the tales she could unravel. Yet, little did Emily know, within the serene veneer of her life, an unforeseen enigma was stirring. A presence from the shadows had fixed its gaze upon her peaceful existence, patiently biding its time. As the sun dipped below the horizon, a subtle shiver in the air hinted at the impending twists fate had woven into the fabric of her tranquility. Emily's peaceful life was on the brink of an astonishing and potentially perilous revelation. In the heart of Serenity Valley, where the sun painted the sky with hues of morning gold, Emily Thompson's day began like any other. The soft caress of dawn's light peeked through her lace curtains, gently rousing her from peaceful slumber. Emily would awaken to the song of birds, their melodies dancing through the open window, joining the symphony of a new day. With a heart full of purpose, she'd brew her morning tea, its fragrance mingling with the crisp morning air. As the scent filled her quaint kitchen, Emily would sit by the worn wooden table, adorned with early rays, and carefully plan her lessons. The sun would climb higher, infusing the room with a comforting warmth. As a dedicated teacher, her students were her universe. The classroom was her canvas, the children, her eager audience. The morning rays would embrace the school building, awakening its halls with a gentle embrace, promising another day of inspiration and growth. Lunch breaks were moments of camaraderie and laughter. The school staff would gather in the small courtyard, sharing anecdotes and dreams. Emily, with her gentle smile, was the heart of these conversations. She'd often bring homemade treats, delighting in the joy of sharing flavors and stories. Post-school afternoons were her sanctuary. The comforting aroma of books filled her cozy living room. She'd immerse herself in tales that spanned eras and emotions, traveling to distant lands within the pages. The ticking of the grandfather clock echoed the steady rhythm of her peaceful existence. In the evenings, the aroma of a simmering dinner would fill her cottage, a symphony of flavors soon to be savored. Emily would welcome the quiet hours with the solace of her thoughts, sometimes composing poetry or jotting down her dreams. The night would wrap her world in a starlit embrace, promising tranquility and rest. But within this seemingly uneventful life, shadows gathered on the fringes of her peaceful routine. Unbeknownst to Emily, an unseen enigma waited patiently for the opportune moment to break into her harmonious world, disrupting the rhythm she had come to cherish. One ordinary evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of dusky pink and orange, Emily sat by her window, her haven of peace. The first whispers of a cool breeze gently rustled the curtains, creating a soft lull in the air. The calming ambiance was broken only by the occasional chirping of crickets. In this tranquil setting, Emily was lost in a novel, the words carrying her to a far-off land of mystery and adventure. Suddenly, the gentle rustle of leaves in her garden morphed into something more. A faint tapping, irregular and eerie, disrupted the serenity of the evening. It was as if someone or something was playing a chilling tune on her window pane. Intrigued yet uneasy, Emily approached the window cautiously, her heart beating just a little faster. She drew back the curtain, revealing the darkness beyond. Moonlight cast an ethereal glow, revealing nothing out of the ordinary. As she leaned in closer to inspect, she noticed peculiar scratch marks on the window. With growing trepidation, she read the marks like a cryptic message etched by an unseen hand. They seemed to form a phrase that sent shivers down her spine. "I watch you, dear Emily, in the stillness of the night." Her gaze darted nervously around the moonlit garden, searching for any sign of the mysterious messenger. The garden remained silent, shrouded in an unsettling stillness. Summoning her courage, Emily decided to investigate further, venturing into the garden cautiously. Her steps felt like echoes in the quiet night as she scanned the shadows, her senses heightened. Nothing seemed amiss, yet an unshakable feeling of being observed lingered. Back at the window, she noticed another set of scratches forming a response. "Fear not, dear Emily. Your secrets are safe with me." A cold chill swept through her breath catching in her throat. The message was clear. A lurking presence was aware of her, privy to her routines and secrets. Emily's peaceful world had been intruded upon, and the sense of normalcy shattered. The enigma had made its first eerie move, sending a wave of dread through her once tranquil life. In the wake of that chilling encounter, unease coiled itself around Emily's thoughts, refusing to loosen its grip. She sat by the window, her mind a storm of confusion and fear. Why there is someone watching her in the stillness of the night? It was unfathomable and unsettling. Disbelief played a cruel dance within her psyche. She desperately tried to convince herself that it was a prank or a figment of her imagination. Perhaps the scratches on the window were just a bizarre coincidence, shaped by the wind's random patterns. As the night deepened and the stars glistened, she sought comfort in her books, hoping to escape this disquieting reality. Yet, every creak in the floorboards and every gust of wind against the window pane amplified her anxiety. The benign sounds of the night now felt like ominous whispers, taunting her vulnerability. Unable to contain her growing unease, she called her best friend, Sarah, seeking reassurance and a dose of rationality. Sarah listened attentively, the worry in Emily's voice palpable. "It must be a misunderstanding, Em," she tried to soothe. "Maybe it's just a neighborhood kid playing pranks." But deep down, Sarah's attempt to offer solace couldn't dispel the unease gnawing at Emily's soul. The scratches, the ominous message, they were real, and they were intended for her. She couldn't simply dismiss the sinister undertones. To validate her fears, Emily contacted the police, recounting the eerie events of the evening. The officer on the line promised to patrol the neighborhood, offering her some semblance of security. However, in the depths of the night, as the moon held the world in its silvery glow, fear kept her company. The house that was once her sanctuary now felt like a potential trap. Sleep eluded her, and when it did come, it brought nightmares. She dreamt of shadowy figures and menacing whispers. Every noise, every rustle, sent her heart racing. The sun's tentative rays finally pierced the darkness, yet they did little to alleviate her growing dread. Emily was on the precipice of an unsettling journey, forced to grapple with the terrifying idea that she was being stalked. The sense of normalcy she once clung to was slipping away, leaving her exposed to a fear she had never known. The unseen stalker had planted the seeds of terror, and there was no turning back. As the days unfolded, so did the relentless torment inflicted by the unseen stalker. Each passing moment seemed to be a dreadful step further into the abyss of fear and paranoia for Emily. The scratches on the window pane continued to appear, evolving into eerie symbols and unsettling messages. Emily would wake up to strange marks etched into her front door, like ominous warnings in a language she couldn't comprehend. The sense of being watched was unshakable, an oppressive presence that loomed around every corner of her once cozy abode. Late one night, as the moon hid behind a shroud of clouds, she heard it. Faint whispers, as if the walls were sharing secrets. Her pulse quickened, and she tiptoed through her home, trying to trace the source. but the whispers remained elusive, vanishing into thin air. They were intended to leave her unsettled, and they succeeded. Then came the unexplained phone calls, the voice on the other end a garbled murmur, sending chills down her spine. "Emily, I see you!" It would hiss before the line abruptly went dead. Her sanctuary had become a trap, every room now a potential hiding place for her relentless tormentor. In the depths of the night, her garden was no longer the serene escape it used to be. The flowers seemed to droop in sorrow, the shadows taking on a life of their own. Every rustle of leaves felt like footsteps, and every distant sound a harbinger of dread. The police investigations yielded no tangible leads. Emily was left to her own devices, her nerves frayed, and her mind a battleground of terror. She installed security measures, but the fear lingered, like an uninvited guest refusing to leave. As the torment escalated, Emily's once vibrant spirit began to wither. Sleep was elusive, replaced by the haunting fear that clutched at her in the darkness. Every moment spent alone was a battle, her mind a battlefield where fear and rationality clashed. The unseen stalker reveled in this crescendo of dread, knowing they had her firmly in their grip. Emily's life, once a tapestry of serenity, was now a living nightmare, and the horrifying ordeal showed no signs of abating. The malevolent force seemed to revel in the fear it had birthed, savoring the torment of its unsuspecting victim. In the wake of the unseen stalker's relentless intrusion, Emily's once cozy home transformed into a den of inexplicable horrors. The benign walls now concealed chilling secrets and bizarre occurrences. Every night, unexplained noises reverberated through the house, a symphony of thuds, whispers, and creaks. Cupboards would creak open on their own, and footsteps would echo in empty hallways. Emily's nerves were on a perpetual edge, unable to find solace in her own dwelling. Misplaced items became a maddening routine. Personal belongings would disappear, only to reappear in inexplicable locations. Keys in the fridge, shoes on the ceiling, and photographs rearranged into cryptic patterns. The familiar turned unfamiliar, and her own home became a maze of confusion. Eerie symbols began to manifest, etched onto mirrors and walls with an invisible hand. Intricate patterns seemed to dance before her eyes, reminiscent of ancient runes. The mere sight of these symbols intensified her fear, leaving her grappling with the enigmatic purpose they might hold. One morning, she awoke to find strange markings scorched into her wooden floor, reminiscent of a ritualistic circle. Panic surged through her veins as she attempted to erase the marks, only to discover they reappeared no matter how hard she scrubbed. It was as if the very foundation of her home had been tainted by an otherworldly force. Doors slammed shut with a force of their own, and windows rattled violently, sending shivers down her spine. The house felt like it was alive, pulsating with an ominous energy that permeated every nook and cranny. In the quiet of the night, unsettling whispers echoed through the halls like a haunting lullaby. It felt as though the walls themselves were trying to communicate, a cacophony of voices from beyond. Each night, the whispers grew louder, their words unintelligible yet filled with a malevolent intent. Emily's sanctuary had turned against her, a theater for the unknown, where fear played the starring role. The unseen stalker reveled in their twisted game, tormenting her with these strange occurrences, plunging her deeper into the abyss of dread. The boundaries of her reality were blurring, and the line between the conceivable and the supernatural was vanishing. As the haunting experiences escalated and her life felt like an unending nightmare, Emily realized she could no longer face this terror alone. It was time to seek help, to unburden her soul and find respite from the relentless stalking. One bright morning, Emily sat down with her closest friend, Sarah, at a quaint cafe in the heart of Serenity Valley. The sun cast a golden glow, but Emily's demeanor was far from sunny. Her eyes were heavy with sleepless nights and anxiety, and her hands trembled as she recounted the chilling tale of the stalking. Tears welled up in her eyes as she described the whispers, the symbols, and the unexplained occurrences that had upended her life. Sarah listened intently, her concern deepening with every word. Emily's fears were real, palpable, and she needed support. Sarah hugged her tightly, promising to stand by her side through this ordeal. She encouraged Emily to confide in her family and, if needed, involve the authorities. She assured her friend that together they would find a way to bring an end to this torment. Emboldened by Sarah's support, Emily decided it was time to involve her family. That evening, she gathered her parents and her younger brother Daniel in their cozy living room. Emily recounted the terrifying experiences she had endured, laying bare the extent of her distress. Her family, alarmed and worried, offered unwavering support. They encouraged her to document every incident, to collect evidence that would aid in identifying the stalker. Emily felt a flicker of hope, a glimmer of strength fueled by the love and solidarity of her family. With their encouragement, Emily finally mustered the courage to report the stalking to the local authorities. The police listened attentively, assuring her that they would take the matter seriously. They promised to increase patrols in her neighborhood and urged her to call if anything unusual occurred. For the first time in weeks, Emily felt a sense of relief. She was no longer navigating this nightmare alone. She had a support system, allies in her fight against the unseen menace. The decision to confide in her loved ones and seek help from the authorities was a turning point, a step towards reclaiming her life and bringing an end to the torment that had shattered her sense of security. After reporting the stalking to the authorities, Emily was confronted with the daunting challenge of proving the existence of the unseen stalker. Skepticism cast a long shadow over her harrowing experience, adding yet another layer of complexity to an already terrifying ordeal. The police officers assigned to her case, while sympathetic, had their doubts. How does one apprehend an elusive enemy that operated in the shadows, leaving only traces of fear? Emily struggled to find a way to tangibly demonstrate the haunting reality she was living. The scratches, the symbols, and the eerie occurrences were real to her, but proving their authenticity was an uphill battle. Each time she tried to show the officers the chilling messages etched into her window, they had faded, leaving no trace of the ominous warnings that had terrorized her. With time, the skepticism grew. Friends and family, while supportive, couldn't help but question if stress or fatigue were amplifying her fears. Even Sarah, her steadfast friend, began to tread lightly, torn between belief in Emily and the hard reality of a lack of concrete evidence. Emily decided to install security cameras in and around her home, hoping to capture any suspicious activity. However, the entity seemed to evade these watchful eyes, leaving her feeling even more isolated in her struggle. The stalker seemed to anticipate her every move, manipulating her reality in a way that defied conventional understanding. The more she sought to gather evidence, the more the stalker seemed to mock her efforts, leaving her on the verge of despair. In a desperate attempt to validate her claims, Emily reached out to a local paranormal investigator, hoping they could shed light on the inexplicable phenomena she was facing. However, even this avenue was met with skepticism from those around her, who urged her to focus on more conventional solutions. Emily was engulfed in the frustrating struggle to prove the stalking, battling both the unseen tormentor and the skepticism of a world that demanded tangible evidence. The elusive nature of the stalker made her question her own reality, leaving her teetering on the edge of a profound and paralyzing isolation. The challenges were relentless, and the proof she needed remained just out of reach, testing her sanity and resolve at every turn. With each passing day, the unseen stalker's actions escalated, plunging Emily into a nightmarish realm of terror. The mounting tension coiled around her, squeezing her heart in a vice of fear. One fateful night, the malevolent force crossed a terrifying threshold. Emily awoke to a blood-curdling scream, echoing from the depths of her nightmares into reality. Rushing through her home, she discovered her cherished family photos defaced, their eyes scratched out, and mocking symbols etched across their smiling faces. The sanctity of her memories had been violated, sending shockwaves of horror through her soul. The symbols, once eerie etchings, now appeared to mock her, their meanings elusive yet undeniably malicious. Their presence seemed to be a taunt, a sadistic reminder of the stalker's sinister capabilities. Then, the relentless messages escalated in their malevolence. No longer content with whispers and scratches, they turned into explicit threats, promising unspeakable horrors. The phone calls became more frequent, the voice on the other end dripping with venomous intent. Sleep became an elusive escape, a realm tainted by terrifying nightmares. The stalker seemed to invade her dreams, twisting them into grotesque visions that merged reality with horror. Fear held her captive, a willing prisoner in the tormentor's ever-tightening grip. One day, as she ventured into her garden, she discovered a disturbing effigy, a grotesque figure made of twigs and leaves, fashioned in her likeness. The message was clear: "I see you, Emily, even here." Her fortress of solitude was now infiltrated, no longer providing solace. Every corner of her life was tainted by the unseen stalker's malevolence. The mounting fear was suffocating, a relentless weight that threatened to crush her spirit. In a daring act of defiance, she decided to confront the stalker. "Show yourself!" She screamed into the empty house, her voice trembling with equal parts fear and anger. But the stalker remained elusive, their presence lingering like a ghostly veil, tightening around her. With each day, the mounting tension seemed like a ticking time bomb, ready to explode into a terrifying crescendo. Emily was trapped in a waking nightmare, haunted by an unrelenting menace that seemed to revel in her escalating fear, leaving her teetering on the precipice of a horror she could scarcely fathom. As the relentless stalking tightened its grip, Emily fought an internal battle to maintain a semblance of normalcy amidst the engulfing chaos. Every day became a tightrope walk between her desire for an ordinary life and the suffocating fear that threatened to consume her. She continued her role as a dedicated teacher, trying to shield her students from the darkness that haunted her every waking moment. The classroom was her stage, and she was determined to play her part. But the terror she felt seeped into her interactions, a lingering uneasy that tainted the once joyful atmosphere. In the privacy of her home, she clung to routines, seeking comfort and familiarity. Cooking, reading, and grading assignments became rituals that provided a fragile sense of control. Yet, the shadows lurked in the corners, waiting to shatter her illusion of normality. Each night, she'd sit by her window, staring at the moonlit world beyond. The rhythmic ticking of the clock was her anchor, a lullaby that battled the cacophony of fear in her mind. She yearned for solace, a reprieve from the ever-watchful eyes that haunted her every step. Her friends grew increasingly concerned, seeing the toll this relentless stalking was taking on her. Sarah, in particular, urged her to seek therapy, to confront the trauma and fear head-on. Emily hesitated, fearing that acknowledging the terror might give it more power. Yet, she yearned for normalcy, for the laughter that once came easily, for the carefree conversations with friends. She craved the simple joys, a shared meal, a heartfelt conversation, a genuine smile. But the stalking presence was an omnipresent weight on her shoulders, an invisible monster that fed on her attempts at normalcy. Its whispers mocked her efforts, its shadows danced just out of reach, a constant reminder that normalcy was an illusion she could no longer grasp. Emily's struggle to maintain her everyday life while facing this relentless stalking was a battle between her will to survive and the malevolent force that sought to break her. The more she fought to regain a sense of normalcy, the more the stalker seemed to revel in tearing it apart, leaving her teetering on the edge of despair. Amidst the shadows of fear, a glimmer of hope emerged as Emily stumbled upon potential clues that could unravel the mystery shrouding her tormentor. The pieces of the puzzle were scattered, waiting for her to connect them, to glimpse the face of the malevolent force that had invaded her life. One evening, while meticulously reviewing her security footage, she noticed a figure lurking in the shadows. A fleeting glimpse, a blur of darkness. But it was a clue, evidence that she wasn't imagining the stalker. The figure seemed human, real, not a figment of her imagination. Determined to uncover the truth, she delved deeper, analyzing the footage meticulously, freezing frames, and studying every movement. The figure seemed to materialize near her home frequently, always obscured by darkness, always just out of reach. In her pursuit for answers, she began noticing a pattern. The appearances seemed to correlate with her trips to the local library, a place where she often sought solace and a break from the suffocating atmosphere of her home. Could the stalker be someone familiar with her routines, watching from a distance? Then, in a twist of fate, she stumbled upon a photo at the library, an old newspaper clipping about a person who had a history of stalking. The chilling realization struck her like a bolt of lightning. The person in the photo resembled the figure she had seen in the security footage. With newfound determination, she embarked on a mission to identify this person. She sought out local archives, interviewed neighbors, and dug into public records. Each piece of information she gathered seemed to draw her closer to the truth, revealing a disturbing pattern of stalking incidents in the town. The name connected to the photo was Vincent Holloway, a man with a troubled past. A pattern of obsession and fixation emerged, leading her to believe that he could indeed be her tormentor. The fear gnawed at her, but the prospect of unmasking the stalker fueled her determination. Emily shared her findings with the authorities, urging them to investigate Vincent Holloway. The police promised to look into it, but the wheels of justice turned slowly. The waiting was agonizing, every ticking second an eternity in the face of looming danger. Emily knew she was racing against time. If Vincent was the stalker, she had to be prepared for the confrontation that was inevitable. The truth was within reach, but so was the darkness that threatened to consume her. The pursuit for the truth had begun, and the shadows of fear grew deeper, but she was ready to face them head-on. In the midst of Emily's investigation, red herrings and misdirections twisted her path, keeping the identity of the stalker elusive and plunging her into a labyrinth of uncertainty. One evening, she received an anonymous package at her doorstep. Inside, she found a torn piece of paper with a message written in cryptic symbols. It seemed to be a taunt, but she couldn't decipher its meaning. She immediately thought of Vincent Holloway and his history of obsession with symbols, but the truth remained veiled. A peculiar series of phone calls added to the confusion. A disguised voice would feed her false information, leading her down a maze of deceit. The voice would suggest potential suspects, neighbors, acquaintances, even her students' parents, planting seeds of doubt in her mind. Emily's surveillance cameras captured fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures, but they always seemed to vanish before she could identify them. The fear of the unknown gnawed at her, leaving her to question if the figures were real or mere tricks of her anxious mind. Even Sarah, her trusted confidant, became a potential red herring. Emily couldn't shake off the nagging suspicion that perhaps Sarah was involved, the thought that tore at her heart. The bonds of trust strained, their friendship teetered on the edge of doubt. Days turned into weeks, and the misdirections piled up, obscuring the truth like a thick fog. The stalker seemed to relish in this psychological torment, knowing that the maze of deception was as paralyzing as any physical threat. Every time Emily felt close to the truth, another layer of doubt was added, another suspect suggested. The riddles deepened, their solutions slipping through her fingers like quicksilver. The walls of her reality seemed to warp and shift, leaving her stranded in a distorted version of the truth. Amidst the red herrings, one thing was certain. The stalker reveled in the confusion, the fear, and the chaos they had sown. The identity of her tormentor remained a twisted enigma, and Emily found herself lost in a sea of possibilities, desperately clinging to a sliver of hope that would unveil the truth and free her from the relentless grip of fear. The night had draped the town in an inky darkness, and the air was thick with tension as Emily, armed with her findings, ventured into the heart of her fears. Vincent Holloway's residence stood ominous, an unsettling silhouette against the moonlit sky. With every step towards his home, the air grew colder, and her heartbeat echoed like a drumbeat of dread. With bated breath, she knocked on his door, her knuckles rapping out the rhythm of her fear. Vincent answered, his face a mask of innocence, a facade that barely hid the storm within. Emily confronted him, her voice quivering but resolute, accusing him of the torment she had endured. Vincent denied the allegations, his words dripping with practiced charm. He invited her inside, an invitation that felt like stepping into the lair of a predator. The walls of his house seemed to close in on her, amplifying the sense of entrapment. In a desperate attempt to prove her suspicions, Emily showed him the evidence she had painstakingly gathered. Vincent's eyes flickered, a flash of recognition that sent shivers down her spine. But then, he smiled, a wicked grin that revealed the darkness lurking within. As their conversation grew more intense, the shadows in the room seemed to dance to an ominous tune, their movements mirroring the rising suspense. Vincent's words became more sinister, weaving a web of lies and manipulation that left Emily teetering on the edge of a horrifying revelation. The suspense reached its zenith when Vincent, overcome by arrogance, slipped and revealed a detail only the stalker could know. Emily's blood ran cold as ice, the truth unraveling before her eyes. Vincent was indeed the tormentor she had feared. Emily knew she had to escape now. She apologized to him and told him it was a misunderstanding. With a swift, calculated move, she lunged towards the door, her pulse racing in her ears, the walls of the house closing in on her. In a heart-pounding surge of adrenaline, Emily made her daring escape, leaving Vincent's house behind. Gasping for breath, the truth she had unveiled propelling her forward. What Vincent did not know was that Emily recorded the conversation with her hidden phone. After Emily's daring escape from Vincent Holloway's clutches, she raced to the police station, her pulse still racing from the intense confrontation. With a sense of urgency, she recounted every harrowing detail to the police, providing the evidence she had gathered. Vincent Holloway was swiftly apprehended, and the wheels of justice began to turn. The news of the arrest sent shockwaves through the community, revealing the identity of the person responsible for the reign of terror that had plagued Emily's life. As the truth emerged, she found solace in the support of her friends and family who rallied around her, helping her rebuild her shattered sense of security. With Vincent behind bars, a weight lifted off Emily's shoulders, and she could finally breathe a sigh of relief. She began therapy to heal the emotional scars left by the traumatic ordeal. The counseling sessions were a crucial step in her journey toward recovery, helping her process the fear, anxiety, and trauma that still lingered. Empowered by her resilience and the unwavering support of her loved ones, Emily implemented various security measures to fortify her home and her peace of mind. She moved to a new neighborhood, far away from the haunting memories, and started fresh. Each day was a step toward regaining a sense of normalcy. The whispers and shadows that once tormented her were replaced with the laughter of friends, the warmth of companionship, and the soothing embrace of a newfound peace. Emily began to thrive once more, using her experience to advocate for better support and awareness of stalking victims. Though scarred, Emily emerged from the darkness stronger, resilient, and determined to live life to the fullest. Her story became a beacon of hope, inspiring others to find their strength, to face their fears, and to never allow the shadows of the past to define their future. And as the sun set on the chapter of her life, marked by fear and torment, Emily embraced the dawn of a new day, ready to embrace the light and the promise of a brighter, safer tomorrow.